Composer John Scott has had an active career for over 50 years. From musician on classic film scores like Malcolm Arnold's Bridge Over the River Kwai and John Barry's Thunderball, to composer of such films as Greystoke, The Legend of Tarzan, Lord of the Apes, and Antony and Cleopatra, to conductor of the Hollywood Symphony Orchestra. One of the aspects of his long and varied career not spoken about as much are the fine scores he did in the horror genre from the 1960s onward, on films such as Doomwatch, Wake in Fright, and Craze, many of which were low budget and every one unique and effective. It was a real pleasure to get the opportunity to talk to John about some of these scores and the creative approaches he took to crafting each and every one of them.
Yes, I did. I have a feeling it was in Wimbledon, a studio called R.G. Jones, but I wouldn't swear to it. Well, with me, it's never ever been a generous budget.
Right, okay.
But Peter Sasdy, the producer, I think he's a very good producer, and he trusted me, and I never went overboard. Probably the largest orchestra I had might have been about 40.
Oh, really?
Which, of course, today is considered big, I suppose.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, anybody is.
But going back to my first feature film, If I Can, which was called A Study in Terror, the producer, Herman Cohen, said to me, "John, I want a 40-piece orchestra. I want a 40-piece orchestra."
Okay.
I've been very, very, very lucky. A film called Antony and Cleopatra came my way, and that's the first time I had a chance to use a full symphony orchestra and choir. Actually, that was a terrifying film to work on because the subject matter was quite ugly, you know, about deformed people and is this island disease-ridden, what's actually going on? It was a little bit scary to write the music for that particular thing. And my method has always been, and I'm very lucky to have been able to work that way, I consider, but I would come up with themes, general themes like the main title and all the rest of it, and then I'd be left to work out. But I was never tied into my main themes, and as I worked through the film, I would be able to modify things. Something else works better, and therefore my main title music would be modified.
Okay.
So there's always the unity of the main title which is used throughout the film. You don't know it?
No, sir, I do not.
Oh, it's a beautiful instrument. It's an Onde Martenot, the French composer, Messiaen. His wife played the Onde Martenot, and he wrote for her. She was a wonderful pianist and Onde Martenot player. Well, they have these weird speakers with resonating strings.
Okay.
And I love it, you know, the way that it can glide between notes and the expressiveness. Yes, within the constraints of a very limited budget. It was done at CTS Studios. I think I used 2 studios, and we did the end titles later in a session. For some reason or another, the film was being brought over in bits and put together and edited in front of me, and when they got towards the end, then there was also a release date.
Right.
So by the time the end titles were ready for the music and I'd written the music, we had to go into another studio, which was Olympic.
Ah, right.
And I remember that, yes. Famous for the Rolling Stones. It was always interesting. because they used to record all through the night, and you get in there early in the morning and there's clouds of smoke of a certain texture or odour.
Yeah. I presume you recorded during the day.
Yes. 10 till 1, 2 till 5.
Is that a good place to record, Olympic?
It was.
Scores?
Keith Grant was the engineer, and he was a wonderful engineer. He died about 3 years ago.
So it was you and a bassoonist.
Yes.
And there's a few guitars, especially in the main title.
That's right.
It's propelled by a little kind of a hi-hat guitar thing. So
the guitar with a wah-wah pedal.
Yeah.
You know. And also, there's a lot of wobble board in there, which you know, I can't describe the sound of it, but it's one of the essential ingredients in that score. Mm-hmm. And didgeridoo, of course, which, I mean, it's an ethnic instrument. You can't find the players, and if you do find the players, you have to take what they play rather than what you want. So with the wah-wah pedal and the wobble board and the on Martineau, it turned into a pretty original score. Well, it was budgetary constraints, and I suppose, of course, I make up my mind musically in the end. They did trust me and leave me to it. And the film is a very, very, very sparse film. And it's, in a sense, a tragedy. It has a happy ending. Mm-hmm. But it didn't call for various themes. There's only one theme really running through the film, and that's a loser. Mm-hmm. It's about a loser and society in the outback of Australia. Mm-hmm. The biggest orchestra in that, I did have strings, is the section where he is going to commit suicide. You know, he puts the gun in his mouth and all the rest of it. Now, that was done with loops of string sounds that I got a pizzicatoing, a loop of pizzicatoing. I got loops of them groaning on the higher strings and all the rest of it. And we composed it out of these various string loops.
Okay.
I also did the same kind of thing in another film which was called The Final Countdown.
Right, yes.
And it was once again going through the time barrier and, you know, very, very strange music, but it was all done with loops. Okay. It wasn't written. Mm-hmm. It was described to the orchestra, and we recorded bits and bits and bits, and then put them all together and mixed them up and modified the sound that had been recorded.